In 2008, summer lightning storms sparked a chain of wildfires in the forests of Northern California. For weeks, smoke blanketed the state, drifting all the way to the California National Primate Research Center, where 50 rhesus monkeys had just been born.
I looked out the window and it looked like the middle of winter here in the Sacramento Valley.
See that little dot there in the middle of your screen? That's the sun.
That twist of fate, a lightning strike, a wildfire, and a primate lab caught downwind, ended up giving researchers a rare glimpse into the surprising lifelong health impacts of smoke. 15 years later, I'm here at the California National Primate Research Center to learn more about the true toll of wildfire smoke on the health of animals and humans alike. The experiment started by chance. All over Northern California, air quality was dropping to unhealthy levels.
This is the worst air quality in the state.
Smoky skies and triple-digit heat.
Stay inside because the smoke and the heat continue.
People living and working in the valley were breathing smoke day after day.
You know, you have to make a living. And I'm not the only one. There's a lot of workers that are working out in it.
And so were all the local outdoor animals, the deer, the cattle, the birds, and the monkeys living at the research center. As the smoky days stretched on, Lisa Miller kept worrying about those monkeys just outside her office window. As she thought about them more and more, the gears in her head started to turn.
As a scientist, our minds are always thinking about the next question and trying to put the pieces together.
Lisa wondered if this generation of monkeys might end up holding the answer to a public health mystery. How early smoke exposure can ripple across an entire lifetime. Scientists know about the short-term effects of wildfire smoke, irritating the lungs or triggering asthma or heart attacks. And scientists have found plenty of clues that point to long-term health impacts. But these are incredibly hard to study. People breathe different air, work different jobs, eat different foods, take different drugs, have different diseases. The complexity of human life, especially over the course of decades, becomes overwhelming. But there, at the Primate Research Center, they had all the ingredients for a natural experiment that could cut through all that noise. The monkeys were all living together, eating the same food, and breathing the same air. There happened to be a state air monitor a mile away, allowing them to track pollution levels around the clock. The generation born the next year was a perfect control group, identical in every way except the exposure to wildfire smoke. And rhesus monkeys are remarkably similar to humans, except they age faster, meaning that over the course of just a few decades, Lisa Miller could get clues from them as to what might be happening to humans exposed to wildfire smoke.
It really was, in my view, serendipity, in the sense that we were at the right place at the right time.
Lisa Miller's team started to study these two cohorts of monkeys, comparing the ones exposed to the smoke to the ones that weren't. And they continued to study them for 15 years. They tested animals' lung function, used CT scans, and took blood draws. All things people might experience during a doctor's visit. One theory that Lisa had, based on her earlier work on primate health, was that air pollution could weaken the monkey's immune system. To test this, they took blood samples from the monkeys. And in the lab, they added little pieces of bacteria and viruses to see how the immune cells would respond. And that is what they found. The exposed monkeys initially had weaker immune responses, leaving them susceptible to infections. But in years later, there was a twist.
Interestingly, as the animals matured, it actually flip-flopped.
Once the exposed monkeys reached adulthood, their immune systems flipped from weak to hostile, causing unhealthy levels of inflammation. This finding was pretty shocking on its own, but it was actually just the start. This is what a rhesus monkey's lungs look like under a CT scanner. Lisa's team took scans like this for all the monkeys in the study and found the wildfire smoke had led to lifelong physical changes. The smoke cohort had smaller and stiffer lungs that could hold roughly 20% less air.
The CT scan images were quite stunning. The physical change that we detected appeared to remain with the animals 5 years later, and now, 10 years later.
Because the smoke monkeys had smaller lungs, they assumed they'd be less active than the others. So to test this, they invented what was essentially a Fitbit for monkeys. For each monkey, they custom 3D printed a collar and put a little motion sensor inside of it. As they looked at the data, they found that despite their smaller lungs, the smoky cohort of monkeys were actually more active because they slept less. The smoke monkeys had completely different and less restful sleep cycles. Because humans are so similar to rhesus monkeys, this study suggests that early exposure to wildfire smoke could contribute to some of the chronic diseases we see in people later in life. And the researchers discovered all this essentially by chance.
The opportunity to do this study was serendipity in many ways, being at the right place at the right time, but also we had all this knowledge here.
And that combination of chance and knowledge allowed them to see the clues hidden just under the surface of a climate disaster. Clues that might help save lives in the future.
It's this first year of life, this really early window of development for humans that is so critical for imprinting long-term health. If you can control the environment during this window of time, you might set the stage for a longer, healthier life in the future.